Welcome back to another edition of Kentucky Esports Weekly. I'm your host, Nathan Stevens. We got a lot of things going on this week, some very brief, but interesting esports news, and we've got a little bit of industry with Hailey and Tyler. And of course, we'll top it all off with some UK news and some good discussion with Alex Cutadean. So sit back, relax. We'll get everything started with quick hitters. According to esportsinsiders.com, Cody Luongo, the Esports Integrity Commission, didn't even know they had one, has caught 37 guilty parties in a Counter-Strike Global Offensive Spectator bug exploit. They used it to cheat. After reviewing 20% of 99,650 games, that's a lot of games. Even 20% of that, that's a lot of games. That date back to 2016, the ESIC has reported 37 teams so far have been caught cheating and using an in-game exploit to win professional matches. That's just so wrong. And it looks like no stone will go unturned and everybody will be judged regardless of popularity. Some teams from various organizations, such as DreamHack, Blast, and Eden Esports, are getting some penalties handed down to them. The penalties range from 5 to 36-month competitive bans. That is somebody's life right there, being banned because they cheated. That's only 20% of those who were found, which I can imagine there'll be far more when they finally catch up with the rest. Cheaters simply don't win. They win immediately, but they don't win after a slow and thorough investigation. So, and that is it for Quick Hitters this week. It's been a slow esports news week. We'll have some Clash of Clans results next time around, possibly some PUBG Continental Series 3 news next week. Until then, we'll shift gears to get more interesting bits of info from our industry folks, Hailey and Tyler. Take it away.
Hello, I'm Tyler Ralston.
And I'm Hailey Salyers.
And this is the week's industry news. One of the biggest pieces of news that occurred last week was Microsoft's acquisition of video game publishing company Bethesda, with a hefty price of $7.5 billion. This news arriving last Monday was a pretty big shock to many and raised questions about the future of the most popular franchises under Bethesda, from Fallout to the Elder Scrolls series. Many were concerned that this would move these titles under the Xbox brand and turn them into console exclusives. However, there are many that believe this is not the future for Bethesda titles and many other Xbox games. After all, most of Microsoft's biggest releases and acquisitions over the last 3 years have been added to the Xbox Game Pass library rather than being relegated to solely individual purchases. A major example being the Halo franchise. With Bethesda now under their ownership, it is likely the library of games under the Game Pass service will expand further with the popular past releases such as Skyrim or Doom, as well as future titles such as Starfield. Phil Spencer, chief of Xbox, is no longer pushing the company to compete with PlayStation exclusives and instead sees the future as a subscription service model with cross-platform inclusivity.
Last week, we talked about Destiny 2's latest expansion pack, Beyond Light, an expansion that will take players to Jupiter's moon Europa. And now we have some good and bad news for players who plan to get the pack. The good news is the developer Bungie is attempting to reduce the file size of Destiny 2 to make downloads smaller and installs faster. The reduced file size will help the developer get patches ready in 12 hours, nearly half the time it takes now. To help reduce the size, Bungie is removing content that has been upgraded or replaced. That material is being called dead content, and its removal will cut the game's install size by around 35%. Depending on the platform a player uses, the file size for Destiny 2 will be around 66 gigabytes after the expansion pack is released. And now for the bad news. The reduction in file size means that players will have to re-download the entire game, all of it. And Bungie recognizes that this is not a thrilling prospect for players, especially those with slow internet or data caps. To help, and kind of apologize, Bungie is allowing pre-downloading of the Beyond Light expansion pack to begin on the night of November 9th, the evening before the pack is officially available. This should give players at least 10 hours in which to download before the pack goes live. Again, Beyond Light officially launches on November 10th for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. The pack will also be playable when the PS5 and Xbox Series X launch.
In other news for Xbox, the Halo the Master Chief Collection content is continuing to expand with the recent release of Halo 3 ODST onto the PC edition. Taking place between the midpoint of Halo 2, when the invading Covenant carrier-class ship escapes through a slip-space rupture over the city of New Mombasa, and the events of Halo 3's climactic end to the original trilogy, Halo 3 ODST takes you out of the super soldier perspective and into the boots of a rookie member of the Special Forces squad known as Orbital Drop Shock Troopers. As their mantra goes, you are dropped feet first into hell as the Covenant's ship escapes, causing a massive shockwave that rips through the atmosphere above and the cityscape below, separating your team and rendering the player unconscious until several hours after their deployment. Navigate the darkened streets, picking hit-and-run fights against superior enemies with only a somber jazz soundtrack for company as you scour the city for beacons to understand just what went wrong and where your squad mates have ended up. On top of the addition of the campaign, ODST also brings its firefight content, wave-based encounters against numerous enemies within locales found in the game, as well as new customization options for Halo 3 content, such as visor colors and weapon skins, or unlocking appearance and voice options for the ODST cast. To round it all out, this update also intends to fix numerous bugs and issues in the game, such as Halo 3's hit registration issues in regard to the battle rifle's performance. These contents are now available on PC through the Xbox Store and Steam.
Among Us 2 has been cancelled, but the story isn't over yet. Developer Innersloth has decided to expand the original Among Us instead of creating a sequel. Content that has already been developed and announced will eventually be added to the original game. The move to scrap the sequel comes after a surge of Among Us, the original, downloads over the last few months. September alone saw over 41 million downloads of the game. The party survival game was originally released in 2018. The recent rise in popularity is being attributed to Twitch. Some of the new content players can expect to see includes new servers, colorblind support, and a friends account system. Innersloth has not yet revealed when this new content will be debuted, and notes that they are still in the development phase for the new servers. While Among Us is currently available for PC and mobile devices, it's unlikely that players will see an Xbox, PS, or Switch version anytime soon due to the mechanical demands of the game.
November 17, 2009 was the original release date of the incredibly popular zombie survival game Left 4 Dead 2, created by Valve. In the years after, it received some content updates and for years had small supportive updates to fix major bugs and network issues. However, like many of Valve's big titles, it was eventually left behind as they shifted their focus onto their online storefront and platform, Steam. In the absence of developer updates, the community has utilized tools given by the devs to create an absolute treasure trove of unique modded content that has kept the game alive among its most hardcore fans. Now, with a seemingly renewed interest in developing or tweaking some of their popular games given the release of Half-Life Alyx, Valve has officially supported a huge community-driven update to Left 4 Dead 2 on PC. The Last Stand update brings a new campaign to the game, inspired by The Lighthouse, an old survival mode map, but this time the survivors have an avenue of escaping the endless horde rather than just fighting until they fall. On top of this, 26 new survival and 4 new scavenge maps have been added using sections of the old campaigns as staging grounds for battle. More minor features, including 2 new melee weapons, the pitchfork and shovel, are being added alongside new and improved animations, implementing weapons from Valve's Counter-Strike source, restoring unused dialogue between characters, model improvements to Common Infected from Left 4 Dead 1, numerous bugs and exploit fixes, as well as 30 new achievements. All of this is a collaboration between community members who created the content and the support of Valve, bringing it all together in an official update to the game. For anyone wishing to experience this revival of a classic zombie shooter that keeps on giving with its years of fan content, you can play it now in Left 4 Dead 2 on Steam.
And finally, we close with some sad news for many game players. 11 years after the game's launch, Farmville is officially shutting down at the end of the year. Though the game will be playable until December 31st, in-app purchases will become unusable after November 17th. Developer and publisher Zynga released a statement on the game's fate, saying, quote, "As previously stated, Adobe will stop distributing and updating Flash Player for all web browsers, and Facebook will stop supporting Flash games on the platform completely after December 31st, 2020. Farmville will therefore be directly affected as a result of this." End quote. Farmville launched in 2009 and saw an average of 80 million active monthly players by the following year. Zynga noted their appreciation of fans who have been playing since the game's debut. They are encouraging all players to switch to games like Farmville 2, Tropic Escape, Farmville 2, Country Escape, and Farmville 3. And that's all for the industry news this week. Now back to Nathan.
Thank you, Hailey and Tyler, and we're at the end of the show, the wrap, if you will. And Alex Cutadean joins us, and we're going to talk about a few things. First and foremost, what's going on UK's campus?
Yeah, so we want to let people know about some new student streamers we have streaming on UK's channel. This week, they'll be streaming Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday evening, starting at around 9 p.m. So tune in and subscribe to the Twitch channel to check out them and support their streams. We also have a new streamer with Linguists Play Games Wednesday at 7 p.m. So check that out. And we also have this week the Esports Speaker Series at 4 p.m. This week we have Meg Wallace from Philosophy. She is going to stream The Value of Playing Games, a presentation about kind of a philosophical view of the value of gaming. So that'll be really interesting. So keep an eye on the Twitch channel almost every night this week. We've got something great going on.
The value of gaming. It's about time somebody did a presentation on that. That's awesome. Oh, cool. Very cool. Speaking of the value of gaming, early on in the esports section, the quick hitters section, we talked about how people were devaluing gaming by cheating. And I know you had some thoughts on it. The only cheating I've ever been exposed to outside of calling somebody a cheater on Destiny and not really being sure of it is probably somebody I knew who played Conan the Barbarian, the Conan game, I think by Funcom, I think it is, who makes it. And actually found how the game goes is you battle other people in the game, and if you defeat them, you can take all their stuff, and you can just take it with you until they respawn and then hunt you down. One of my friend's cousins found a broken wall where he would store things that he would, after he disposed of other people, he would take their stuff and then throw it in like this broken graphic wall, and it would just go into the ether, and like they can never retrieve it, but he found a way how to actually spawn into it so they could never get their stuff. And he'd just constantly do that. No matter how many times he died, it would always be there. But that's the only cheating I've known of as recent times. But I know you've got a history of competitive sports, and you've got a few examples.
I'm glad you said a history of competitive esports and not a history of competitive cheating.
No.
Yeah, so I used to play a lot of Unreal Tournament, so a little UT99, but on the competitive side, Unreal Tournament 2003 and 2004. And so I have a little bit of experience of playing in, competitive first-person shooters as well as kind of the community that surrounds that, and as well as kind of this kind of idea or these kind of culture of cheating that happens, especially in these communities. And kind of the interesting things that I took from this article, kind of in with that perspective, is this was, even though it's kind of a small percentage, it was a large number of people. And so you kind of get this perspective of justifying cheating by saying, okay, everybody's doing it, so I'm going to do it too. And it's just an even footing because everybody's doing it. And I definitely saw that when we would play, and I was a purist. Like, I didn't want to have any modifications outside of what the game would allow you to do. But even from that perspective, people would do things like change your setting so that something's easier to see, or load a skin pack that makes people brighter, easier to see. I always thought things like that, even if they weren't outright banned, that it kind of deviated from that kind of nature of the game or the intended gameplay. But it definitely happened when I was playing. The other thing that's interesting to me is that none of the players are being implicated. You have to think that they knew. This was a Spectator hack, basically, or a Spectator glitch exploit, which allowed a manager to basically spectate and reveal the location of the opposing team, which is basically the entire point of CS:GO is finding your position, and then much more of the game is spent getting in position and finding your strategic positioning, since the actual combat encounters are very short, so it's all about getting that position advantage. And so that's a huge part of the game, and you have to think that some of the players knew what was going on. It would be really hard to prove, but that says to me that there really was a culture, at least in a subset of this pro community, that there was a culture of cheating and kind of looking the other way, which is understandable because I've seen it. I think it happens a lot more than we might realize.
I'd say so, and that and I know we discussed this a little bit before this segment, but when there's money on the line and popularity and branding, and you'll do probably pretty much anything to get ahead and to stay ahead, and if that means cheating, I mean, I guess that's a method, but in the long run, do you think this will really hurt them? I mean, 5 to 36 months is seriously not a heck of a lot of time, honestly, even the maximum.
Yeah, so what it comes down to, it was these managers.
Yeah.
When I played, if you got caught cheating, it was basically a death sentence in that community. And really CS:GO has been around for a while, and I expect it will be around for a while to come. But when you look at kind of the life cycle of some of these games, a 36-month ban, CS:GO might not even be on the as popular as it is now, and people may have moved on. So that could be like a career-ending, or at least in a CS:GO career-ending ban. The shorter bans, the fact that there is a suspension and not a flat-out ban, is interesting as well. The communities that I played in, if you got caught cheating, you'd basically be banned for life. So that's some interesting things there. I'm kind of curious in 3 years what CS:GO will look like, but yeah, I guess that's the nature of competitive play today.
Yeah, I mean, like years down the road, probably by 3 years, you'll have another game that's a hot thing, and maybe Valorant will become like the new CS:GO, where it's on the way out, but people still play it. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see like if this truly affects somebody, because I mean, if CS:GO goes away within a 3-year period, and it might, more than likely the people who are suspended or banned had moved on to something else. And maybe it's a different league, maybe it's in a different team, but regardless, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like much of a punishment at the end of the day.
Yeah, and people's personas are much more public now. When I was competing, 15 plus years ago, you'd get people, all you'd have to do was change your nickname or handle, and you could compete sometimes under a different name or join a different community and kind of change who you were. Some of these high-profile competitors, though, they're not able to do that in this day and age. So yeah, it'd be interesting. Probably the most interesting thing is where's CS:GO going to be in 3 years?
Yeah, they're probably still going to be investigating the other 80% of those games. So might not even be worth it. But cool. All right. Well, thank you very much on that perspective and for the UK news. And folks, this is all we got for you today. So enjoy it. We will see you next week with some more esports news and some more interesting news. And we'll catch you later. Remember to mask up and be safe. See ya.